Hello, everyone. I'm back with yet another, so to say, a podcast video, and this time I'm going to talk with a friend of mine, Gucci, about the Kazan game. That's a game that is still in a beta phase, and that most of us has played. And I would like to know what are his opinions, and I'm going to share as well my opinions about that game. So, Gucci, could you tell me I mean, how was your experience in that game? Did you like it? What would you like to change? Have you finished, so
Yeah.
to say, that whole beta? And did you submit
hmm
your, so to say, suggestions on what they should improve?
Yeah. Well, I think starting off, I think the game is uh very, very well, nicely designed. Like, I think the game is really clean. First of all, like I think like the way the game looks, stylistically is really nice. I think the combat is pretty good. Sometimes stiff, I would say, like in certain areas, but it is pretty good. And I like the enemy design and enemy variety so far. It's good. Um, the skills are interesting, although I will say that I feel like for weapons, I gravitated more towards spear because I felt like it had a more complete move set. Like for example, I don't know if you use the spear at all, but there's this one
Yes, I
move
did.
where yeah, there's this one move called 0 point. It's the square ender for combos where you do like a heavy attack and then you do square, and it's just like a bunch of spear strikes, and you can link those combo enders into more attacks, which is not something that's prevalent in the other moves for other weapons. Like they don't have that yet, at least not like in the moveset skill tree that we were given from the beginning of the demo. Like we have quite a bit of skills to play around with, but I kind of wish that we had like a little bit of a more complete move set with the other weapons. I think the dual wield weapons are cool,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really have what the spear has with 0 point and the what is it, the square triangle follow up. I forget what it actually
Yeah.
is,
What are your thoughts
but yeah.
about stamina? Because I'm quite curious. In my opinion, like I was saying,
Mm,
our style of the game is great. Like there is no talking, no speaking or adjusting needed there because it looks really nice.
hmm
Weapons and skill design, enemy design, map design, bosses, everything seems fine. But I've been having a huge problem with stamina consumption. Like I did even test some stuff, roughly tested. The difference between, I mean, there is a difference between agility A and B in terms of the key consumption, but that's not, so to say, key consumption, stamina consumption, but not that big. But again, with agility A, when I dodge, I spend around 20% of my stamina, which doesn't make sense. Like
hmm
basically, and the worst part for me personally was when I'm out of stamina. I can't dodge, I can't attack, I can't move. Basically, I'm becoming a
hmm
piece of statue that's face tanking everything that the enemy does in front of me. And you need to
hmm
think always to leave some stamina around so you can dodge attack because you cannot be aggressive in combat. I don't know will that change further in the game, but that was my biggest issue. So stamina was my biggest issue. When you add on skills on that, it seems better, but still it's too stiff from that perspective. And I don't
yeah.
know why so many developers suffering from the same issue. I mean, that's a similar issue like in Rise of the Ronin, even though
Yeah,
that shouldn't be there. So yeah,
I would say I feel like this game i- so like on one hand I would like to just delete the stamina bar completely. You know what I mean? Like I just get rid of it, right? Because I feel like combat would be so much more fluid and more less like restrictive if that were to be the case. But I do also understand the idea behind having um a stamina bar in the first place, simply because it does add the element of like strenuousness to the gameplay that
hmm
I think is lost in like a lot of action games. Like a lot of action games are designed to, at least back in the day, like Ninja Gaiden. If we're going to talk about Ninja Gaiden, right? There's no restrictiveness in that gameplay. It's just you go in, you start attacking people, and you try not to get hit as much as you can, and you just do stylish combos, and there's no restrictiveness to the combat whatsoever aside from you trying to avoid enemies and kill them, right? And just like trying to attack them to death, right? So that's something that I feel like we're missing a lot in action games today. But um, for a game that's like a Souls like this, there's a lot of companies that love to tout that they're not trying to make a Souls like game, which I think is actually what they're saying for this game as well. They're, oh yeah, no, this is an action game. Listen, man, you got checkpoints, you got uh like a D-pad situation going on where you're using heals and all this stuff. You got a stamina bar, you got bosses, you got, all these basic necessities for a Souls like. So your game is a Souls like, all right, man. Like it is a Souls like. Let's not get that twisted. However, that being said, I still do think that the way they're implementing the stamina into these games, especially this one too, it is good. It is a good thing. But I agree with you that the stamina consumption rate, at least at the very beginning of the game, is incredibly limiting. You can't do a lot unless you um, really know what you're doing. Like you really kind of like have to know your way in and out of combat and like know which moves, okay, if I use this or if I dodge this attack at this time, I can regain my stamina even more. So it's kind of like, you know how like, of course, key pulsing in Neo, right? So you use a
Mm-hmm.
key pulse to regain your stamina, right?
That's a
Well,
reward.
in this
That's
game,
you. You
yeah,
reward. You have a reward
exactly.
system. But I was
Hmm.
about to say in Kazan, you don't have basically you perfect parry and you're not gaining any stamina back. Only time you gain stamina back fully, it's when you stab enemy, but only when you stab them from the front. If you try to stab them from behind, you're not getting any stamina at all. And I was like, what the fuck? What's the difference if I stab somebody from behind or from the front? He's in a so to say weak state. Like I can grapple him. When I said stab, I mean grapple. So if you grapple from the front, you
Ah.
gain in your stamina back. If you grapple from behind, you get in nothing back. I don't know if that a bug or intended, but doesn't make sense to me. And they should
Hmm.
actually give some sort of reward on parry. Like when I perfectly parry attack or
Hmm.
perfectly dodge attack, because there is a perfect dodge as well. Give me some
Hmm.
reward because you put that fucking stamina there. In let's say
There is.
Wukong, it's I would say like much more better done in that way. You can attack, you can dodge without any stamina there, and I'm fine with that.
Hmm.
You gave me a chance
Hmm.
to get out of the danger, and at the same time, you allow me to be aggressive. And it's up to me what
There
I'm going to do.
there are some weapons that actually do give you stamina back for dodging perfectly dodging attacks though. Like there's let me look actually. Yeah, so there's this passive skill called Cold Blood Stamina. It's a passive skill for the dual wield weapons. And it
Mm-hmm.
says recovers stamina upon performing a brink dodge. So perfect dodge. Um and I think more weapons need this. I don't know if this is the only weapon. I don't know if I don't think it is. Um
I mean, let's say
but
Greatsword. Greatsword looks cool, but it's draining the shit
mhm.
out of your stamina. Basically, you can land 3 or 4 hits and you're out of stamina. And then
That's
you're
another
standing.
thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. I want to like the greatsword more, but I feel like the base moveset for the greatsword was like a lot of the same stuff. Does that make sense to you at all? Like I really felt like a lot of the moveset was like copy and pasted. Like there's like at least two or three
Yes.
different moves that are literally like the same animations or like very similar like jumping esque like leaping high in the air slam down type skills. Like a lot of skills were like that. And I just kind of like looked at it and I was like, huh? So I have the same move now? Like what's why?
I mean,
I don't know. Maybe.
also, you probably remember that stupid fight with because every time you fought I would call that enemy revenant because I don't know how else I would call that enemy. Whenever you fought
Hmm.
that sort of enemy, you gain a new weapon, and at some point there was a motherfucker. I think he was using dual wielding weapon. That motherfucker is regaining stamina at insane rate. He does insane shit, and none of that. Basically you are super immobile in comparison to him, And that's the
Mm.
thing. That's another thing that, I mean, it's present in most games. And I'm always questioning myself, what's so difficult for developers to have somebody who's playing these sort of games to give them feedback and input, because these are simple things. I don't know how they don't see themselves that stamina is bad, or they should do something regarding to stamina. Or maybe you said, okay, you said there is a passive skill for a dual wielding weapon. Maybe they should add that as for every weapon, but then
Yep.
being able to enchant that effect with certain weapons. That would be good, but you need to actually implement that as a common thing, normal thing, which is across all the
Yep.
weapons, and then giving a chance to enchant that if you want. If you don't want, it's up to you, absolutely. But just
Mm-hmm.
give us option, and that's why I'm saying and keep up saying why Neo 2 has an insane combat system. And if they did, I was saying that many times, if they, in Rise of the Ronin, if they just copy paste stamina system, or so to say key system from Neo, the Rise of the Ronin would be already great game, and we would be still playing that game even though replayability wouldn't be like in Neo. But again, they
Mm-hmm.
haven't done it. To get back on the topic of the Kazan, I'm just saying, like, game is great. I'm definitely looking forward to release of that game, and I'm glad to see people making new game, having new ideas. But
Mm.
they have to understand one thing: we are not anymore in 2000, 2005, or 2010. And I just don't understand. I don't want to play Demon Souls, Dark Souls over again. Like, we need to grow over that, because it's 2024. Like, goddamn, like, if you want to make an action game, take a look. I mean, Team Ninja did a very good step in terms of combat from Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden was excellent. There was no stamina system there. It's a, hack and slash type of it. But again, they got up with Neo, and they made some huge improvement in terms of combat that every single developer should take into account. And just see, oh, look what this guy have done with combat, and this is quite interesting idea. Maybe we should just work upon this, and probably implement similar thing, not fucking copy pasting, or getting there like roll mechanic, like as your main dodge. Like, I'm getting sick when I see that. I mean, I like, I mean, like, look, Neo gave you option. You can dash, you can roll, you can do many different things. You can avoid. But dude, rolling, rolling, rolling. Elden Ring, new IP, rolling, 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 rolling. Like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, fucking Sekiro was nice change in comparison to Dark Souls, but again, okay, there we go. Elden Ring, same shit. I mean, just comparison wise, like, they need to get
Yeah.
some, but seems like that combat works for a majority of the people, and I don't understand why. And then they
Yeah.
call themselves, I'm a Souls veteran. I get into Neo and I get my ass whooped by the fucking Gaki or the first enemy that appears there, and then I'm just crying how this game is bad. No, none of the game is bad. The only person that is bad is actually you as a player. Like, obviously, that particular player have a skill issue. Like, if I get in DMC, let's say, I'm just saying, there is no
Mm-hmm.
stamina bar, and I cannot do what Axel Edge does, or many other Chinese players on, let's say, BSG or Spawn. That means that
Mm-hmm.
the game is shit. No, that means that I'm fucking shit, and I have a skill issue, and I need to practice. That's what that means. I mean, it's obvious. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say, I was also saying that. I was talking to many people, and many of them are sad. I think also Grandmaster pointed out how the EI in Neo, like, you also know that. We are just getting
Mm-hmm.
back there. And I think even in Kazan, you would say the EI kind of mixing up the attacks. They don't have a locked pattern, they repeat. And like
Mm-hmm.
in Dark Souls, like, you have the boss is having locked pattern, and he's just repeating that in order, same order, and then you learn that and you find. In Neo, and I think in many new games, let's say even Wukong, the enemies are mixing up the patterns, and that was the first thing I have seen in Neo. And you do not know, I mean, every single possible, so to say, attack that this enemy can does, but you never know when it's going to do it. Sometime
Right.
it will just, okay, I'm gonna do that now. No, I'm not. I'm gonna mix it up with something else, and oh fuck, man. And that's
But
something that I like about these games, and I think that should
yeah.
be took into account. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand what you mean. Yeah. One thing I kind of disliked about the demo is like there was this thing where like, you would learn skills for all your weapons and everything, and you'd
in a
get all
second
that stuff
mission,
done. And you were like,
like, not
ah,
on the
yeah.
beginning, like that,
And
that,
then
that was bullshit
yeah,
as well. Like,
and then
why did you not give
yeah,
me skill 3 on the beginning? Like,
yeah. and then well, this is the other thing that I didn't like. So let's say you get all the skills you want for the weapon you're gonna use, right? You're like, ah, yes, now I feel like I can actually play the game like a little bit more like complex and more fun, right? And then you get to a certain point where you can't get any more skill points, and you're like, well, why are my skill points? Why aren't they going up? What's going on here? And then you see this fucking lock on your skill point
Yeah,
bar, and then it says mastery level 19, and then it says, "Oh yeah, you have to complete this mission." And I'm like, "Man, I'm in the demo. I can't do that. What the
exactly. Yeah,
like?" And
that's
the
another
thing
thing.
sucks about that too is that like yes, you get all the skills for like your weapon that you want to use, right? That's all good and dandy. But there's like other things that I want to get, man. I want to get like if I want to be able to use all the weapons, like I want to get the skills for all that, and I want to do the same thing for like all the general skills, like getting like more spirit gauge, more spirit accumulation, more spirit upon performing like brink dodges. Like I would like to be able to do that. Like that stuff kind of makes me a little sad.
Yeah,
Just
that's true. I
yeah.
think the always best idea when it's get to weapons and stuff like that, it's having some sort of weapon proficiency. I would say like in Neo, and that's not tied to the level or mission because the more you play with that weapon, the more skills you get. At some point at the end, you will unlock every single skill from that skill tree. And that's something
Mm,
I think I find cool because you are rewarded for playing with that one weapon just by getting being able to unlock like this. You're capped, like, especially here in demo, you're capped. Oh well, you need to finish this mission, and I finish this mission. And it says thank you for playing demo or beta, and like bro.
yeah. It's a good thing, but also a bad thing, right? Because you're just like, oh, I can't get all this stuff, but then you're like, well, it's a demo, and it makes me more interested to see what comes up in the full release, right? So like, it makes you wanna get the game, right? So it's a double-edged sword. But what I
Mm-hmm.
what I would say is like, did you ever play Lies of P at all?
I never played it. I watched people playing, and I thought of
And it wasn't
maybe I
really your
should
thing.
play it, but I was like, it feels like so much like it reminds me so much on Dark Souls, and I just
Mm,
really grow up over Dark Souls. I played Dark Souls 2 and 3. It was really great back in the time, but I think I
mm-hmm.
grow up over that, and I think that's another way that I don't like to play that sort of game again these days because
Right.
I
Yeah.
just want to see I want to see something new. Wukong
I
was
was.
different, even though it was
Yeah.
simplified. It was different again. It was
It was
something
very
new. It
simple.
was, yeah.
I for Wolong or Wolong, Jesus, let's not get onto that. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, I was gonna say for the monkey game. I always forget the name now. But yeah, no,
Wukong.
I thought that yeah, Wukong. There you go. I thought that game was really good, but it's like you said, and like other Neo players have said in the past, or at least like in these past few weeks, months, is that the game is really good, but I just wish there was like more we could do in terms of the combat. Like for
Have
example, like
you?
the
Sorry for interrupting. So, have you
Mhm.
watched the Sacred Force last load video against the what was the name of
Erlang
that?
Chen.
Yeah, that motherfucker, that worst
Yeah,
boss. That was
yeah, man.
something. That was
That
something.
was
Like I, I
something
I
else,
I was
bro.
watching, and I was like, oh my fucking god! Like I mean I
Yeah.
knew this game comedy is simple, this simple, but I think Sacred Force nailed that shit. He did practice. I know he actually practiced a lot. That's the thing. Whoever think anywhere on a planet Earth that these people are actually getting this game, and from the first day they playing like that. No, they don't.
Yeah.
They do a lot of practice, and
One thing
they don't see that practice, but he did actually that very nicely and actually opened another
yeah.
way to play that game. So it was quite
Yeah,
good.
one thing I would say about that though is that I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm almost certain that he was using the glitch that you could do where you could like cancel almost anything with
Mm.
the cloud step thing. That I really like that. I liked it a lot, but it's just so sad that they got rid of it with the patch, and he he just decided to keep it and not update his game, which fair enough to him, right? Like I would have done the exact same thing. But given the fact that he is using that, I feel like it just makes the combat a lot more interesting. And I wish I could have done it too, because I would have done the exact same thing, man. Like I would have like labbed the game in and out, kept doing all that stuff. I had a little bit of time with it, and it was great. but now it's gone, and now I just feel like, oh, now it's boring again. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, no, he had a great video, man. Like the best part of that video was when Erlang Shen was like going up in the air, and then he's throwing all the swords at him, and then
Yeah,
they could
yeah,
just
I remember.
walk.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my
yeah. I
god,
remember that was badass. Like I'm just
that was
walking.
so
Yeah,
badass. I was like,
yeah.
okay, all right, that's cool.
So
Oh,
to get
that was pretty sick.
back on a Kazan, so we just don't spread
Yes.
the topic too far. Like, how did you like which boss of these three that were there? You liked? Did you like that Yetuga or whatsoever was the name, or perhaps maybe that second boss that just delaying every single thing that it does, or perhaps the third boss that lizard? So, what is your opinion
I
about it?
I I thought the Yetuga was a good introductory boss, given the fact that we didn't have a lot to play around with. Um, he wasn't too complicated. He was, built like just the right way. I thought he was a good boss. Obviously nothing like insane, like oh my god, like he's so hard or whatever. Like he was simple, but he was good. Like he was a
Mm-hmm.
well designed boss. Nothing out of this world. I'd give it like if I had to give it a rating, like a 7 out of 10 boss. Like
Mm-hmm.
good boss, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, the second boss, I forget the name of him, but I
Yeah, I
really
forgot as
liked his
well.
design. I thought his design was pretty cool, man. Like he was good. Very fun. I like the second phase a lot. Uh, he sort of telegraphed moves like a lot, a lot better than what I was expecting. Like there was a lot of telegraph moves, and I think that's one thing that a lot of these like Souls like S games are missing nowadays is like well telegraphed moves.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a lot of those nowadays. No,
That's
nowadays it's
true.
like I'm gonna do this, and then oh, just kidding, I'm gonna do this now. Like within like 300 milliseconds of you reacting to, because that's one thing that I feel like is missing in these games now is like you're not really reacting to things anymore, like because if you react to these new Souls like games, like even Liza P does this too, right? If you react in one way, but you think it's gonna be that way, you're gonna die. Like you know, so let's say a boss goes for this overhead swing, right? And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm gonna parry that and then dodge the next move. But then instead of doing that, they go, okay, I'm gonna go up here, oh, and then I'm gonna feint my attack, and then I'm gonna sweep you under the leg, and now you're gonna die. It's like, man, like
Yeah.
seriously, like it's just annoying, right? Like I don't like see, here's the thing, right? I'm a weird guy when it comes to combat. I actually I like things like that. I just like them in moderation, right? Like I think it's good to have moves that keep you thinking and they keep you on your feet and they, make you second guess, but don't do it all the time. You know what I mean? Don't do it
Mm-hmm.
every single fucking time because then it's just going to get really annoying, right? And it's not per se like super annoying for me personally. I'm not speaking out of like malice for these types of gameplay decisions, but for I'm thinking like more broadly for like the whole scope of players, right? They probably hate shit like that, right? So like if you
Yeah.
just keep doing that over and over again, it's going to be really annoying for most of the player base to get into fighting a lot of these bosses and these enemies that are like um really like highly creative but very volatile when it comes to fighting them, because when you do things like that, when you introduce those types of problems gameplay wise to some of these players, they just shake their head and they go, well, like what was I supposed to do? And the answer is, well, you're supposed to pay attention, right? You're supposed to visually look at the character or the enemy, excuse me, and just see and realize, okay, I've seen this guy do this before, but he's not going to do what I think he's going to do. He's going to do something else. And I think that is good enemy design, but of course, like I said before, in moderation. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's good to keep it in moderation, and yeah, that's just something I think about that. But yeah, no, I thought that a lot of the bosses in this demo uh, had moves like that, but not a lot of them. A lot of the attacks are mostly really, really well designed in the fact that they are um, not highly telegraphed, but telegraphed enough that you can just be like, oh, okay, I can react to that. Okay, I can parry that or I can dodge that, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
can deal with this move. And it's good for a game like this in particular because of how many options this game gives you. Like when you do actually have the skills and everything and you're able to use them, it does open up a lot of interesting interactions. You can choose to, you want to get the parries, you want to get their stamina down. Okay, well, keep going with the parries. If you want to keep, attacking them and be aggressive, then you have to dodge, gain your stamina back, and then just keep going in, right? So like, and another thing I really like about this game that Liza P, I don't want to compare the two too much, but um, one thing this game does really, really well that I really like is the multiple skills that you have at your disposal. You have 6 skills potentially to use at any time, uh, provided you have the spirit gauge to use them, right? I
Yeah,
think that is an S tier thing. Like, that is such a
agree,
good
agree.
thing for this game. It's
That's true.
very, very good.
And they're not connected
And
to your stamina
yeah.
bar. They basically separated from your stamina, which means they allow you somehow to manage it and still, being able to, like, you can land them regardless of your stamina, which is
Mm-hmm.
not a bad
Yep.
thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, that's one thing I would say about this game that I really enjoy is like the amount of skills you are able to use at will at any point as long as you have spirit gauge. That's a great decision and I'm glad that they have them. I hope that in the future, whatever they're going to give us later on, when the game fully releases, at least for skills, is I hope that they give us more skills that give us like more interesting interactions, like player enemy interactions. Like I've said before with Neo, is like player enemy interactions in Neo is by far some of the best, like in any game, any action game, period, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion.
Yeah.
I just feel like they need more of that, right? Like I feel like if they just keep doing that for skills and giving us more cool shit, like for example, the dual wield skill, the one where you what is it? It's I think it's called Wind Piercer. It's like a hatchet throw, and then you dash in and do like a double slash. Like stuff like that is cool. And you can use that for multiple things, right? Like you could use it to engage on the enemy and dash into them, and get like some quick hits in there. And then you also have the one skill that's called Flash Cutter, which is like a dashing skill. It's almost like think of like what's that one skill? Sign of the Cross for dual swords, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
sort of like that, but it also acts as a parry. It acts as like a deflect move, so you can counter people while attacking. I love stuff like that. That stuff
Mm-hmm.
is great. I think they just need to add more things like that, and that will eventually make the game a lot more fun to play. I think if they just really hone in on things like that, it can make the game really, really fun. Um, and that's what I kind of hope for the devs to work on in the future. That's one thing that I think is really, really good. So kudos to them. So far, the what they're doing with the combat is good, very nice, and yeah, I like it a lot. So yeah.
So overall, what would be your rate on this beta, so to say, on a scale from 1 to 10?
Mm. Well, aside from the slight bugs and things like that, like there is this one bug. I don't know if you encountered it at all, but there was this issue where for certain enemies I would what was that thing called? It was like a grapple move, you know what I mean? And for some reason, like I would do this grapple move on some of these like regular basic enemies, and the animation looks great, but there was like no sound, like no sound effect. So I thought that was really weird. But aside from that, yeah, no, I think the game is really, really well designed. I think the game is flashy. I think it's the artistically it looks great. I think like the anime style um, of the DNF games and the DNF online, all that stuff, it looks fantastic. I think it looks great. Um, and of course, the combat's great. Um, it's not like super top tier, like nothing like I haven't seen before, but I like the way that they're going in terms of like combat direction. I think it's all good. Um, I would say I'd give this demo like it was like an 8 out of 10 for the most part. I think it was pretty good. Like there's not really too much to complain about, and there was just a point in time where I was just like, you know what? Let me just sit down and like fight this enemy for like a couple hours. Like he's just like fun, right? Like I like being able to like lab and just like mess around with stuff. And so like and the game was like letting me do that. And I was like, awesome, this is great. Like, that's just kind of like and I'm weird for this, right? Like I don't really I like fighting bosses in these games and things like that, but I actually like fighting the like normal enemies just a little bit more because I feel like it gives me a little bit more freedom to sort of like express like skill expression is a little bit easier to um put out there when I'm fighting like some enemies rather than bosses because bosses well in these games you gotta be careful, dodge, parry, all this stuff, right? But with the regular enemies, you're kind of like a little bit more lenient on that. So that's kind of like how I like to practice with that stuff. And I think that's a really good thing. That's another thing that I really liked about Liza P as well. I thought their enemy design was like so good. It was so peak. Like it was really, really, really nice. Not to say that this game is like anywhere near that, in my opinion. I think Liza P did um enemy design like the best out of like any Souls like we've had so far, in my opinion. I think it's really great. This game does have good enemy design, and I want to see more. I'd like to see more. Um, I think the humans kind of need to be spruced up a bit. I think they're just a little bit like basic, at least the like regular soldier enemies, the ones that have like the regular longsword and stuff like that. Like I thought those enemies were just like fodder. Like I don't know. I thought they were boring. I
Mhm.
don't know how you felt about them.
Well,
But
I mean, they can probably work a bit more on them, as you said, but yeah.
mhm, yeah. But yeah, that's what I would say. I would give the demo like an 8 out of 10. I
Mhm.
would say pretty good.
Yeah, okay. I mean, aside from me that I need to adjust and change the stamina system, I could say like let's say 7 out of 10 for me, but I will see in the future within the next either demo release or perhaps the full game release.
Hmm.
And another thing, yeah, I think this was actually great, yet another great discussion regarding to this new game that we actually had Vitas
The
recently
privilege of
released.
playing, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and for all the people who did not know or actually forgot to sign up, if you watch anybody playing that beta and streaming, you were able to get the access or to get a code for each continent. Because I actually, for instance, I signed up and
Yeah.
I got codes for Asia, Japan, Korea, Europe, and US,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that was actually quite nice and generous from the developers side. Gucci, thank you very much for joining me here in this discussion, and yeah, I guess we'll have a lot more discussions regarding to other games. Thank you for your
Hmm.
time, and I wish you, pleasant Sunday evening and day. And yeah, I guess
Yes,
we
you
talk
too,
again.
man. Awesome. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.